Hey guys, welcome back. We're playing Fables of the Den. It could be another storybook, I'm not sure. Yeah, a living book of my might and delight. What's this? He's one to gamble over. Ever wondered why the lynx has no tail? It's actually pretty amusing depending on what side of the tail you're on. What? Are there like stories for every animal? A long time ago, in a small idyllic corner of the woods, lived a reclusive fish. One of those that love to be left alone. On the other end of the scale lived a lynx. Now, if there is one animal that appreciates quality, quality alone time, it would be the lynx. Oh no, not this one. This four-legged legged pest took it upon himself to bother the fish at every opportunity by throwing petals into the pond, simply because he could and hoped to get a reaction. Jesus Christ. A reaction. One day he did. After another day trying and failing to get a raise out of the fish, the lynx fell asleep by the pond, with his tail in the water. The fish, seeing his chance, lunged forward and bit off the hairy, hell-raising, fluffy, long tail. Okay. So that's why the lynx has only a stump where the tail used to be. What the fuck? And maybe small, but that should never stop you from showing your strength. Here is a short story explaining why. Do they all have stories? A bear cub and her father, who just awoken from their winter slumber and stepped out of their cave for a relaxing stroll, when suddenly, while stepping on a thin sheet of ice, slipped and plunged into a voraciously cavernous. Starting to get out, the father suggested they wheel as high as they could in the hope a nearby large animal could come to their aid. However, the little cub turned to her father and said, "No, we should call out to the tiniest birds to come help us of this deep hole we're in." The father was confused but decided to follow his daughter's lead. Shortly after calling for help, Little Bird showed up. She flapped around, made a few noises, and shortly afterwards was followed by a band of small animals. Together, the helpful group lifted the bear cub and her father from the hole and onto the sturdy land. It showed what could be achieved when groups work together to achieve a common goal. For those of you always looking for a place to lay your head, here's a story about snails. Snails? A young snail, sluggy and soft, longed for a home of her own. Everyone around her had places they turned to for shelter, so why didn't she have one? I deserve one, and if I had If I have to try and build one myself, she proclaimed. And she did try, day and night with no sleep until she could do no more. See, she lacked hands and her tentacles weren't made for hard labor. But she has a little house over here now. Distraught and exhausted, she crawled up and fell asleep with dreams on her home on her mind. She woke up with a joy of a short time later, with a weight on her now robust shoulders to discover the home she had longed for was with her, or more accurately, was on her all alone. What? I gotta tell about simply being yourself. I heard this from a leafy friend about a goat who lived life to the fullest at his own pace. While life flashed by for many of his furry friends, he approached things a little more leisurely. Okay. He was a funny goat, but few knew this because he was a slow talker. One day, whilst telling one of his witty sagas, the gathering animals fell asleep before reaching the end. Disheartened, he was about to make the slow walk home when he heard a chorus of hearty laughter coming from the trees and bushes. That was a fantastic story, the tree said. Things changed from that day onwards. The goat never felt alone again since he knew he had a lot of friends to speak to. It goes to show that there are people out there who appreciate you for who you are. But it's a tree. Bruh. The fish. They may be are hard to see, little cousins, but ever wonder why the spiders hate the fly? It's a short tale, but long time ago a spider was head over heels, was head over fin in love with a dainty little fly. Despite his best efforts, he was unable to get the fly to return his wayward affection. Things came to a head one day when the fly threw a little what? Wait, when the fly threw a drop of water over the spider, which made him understandably upset. From that day onward, spiders far and wide have had a love-hate relationship with flies. What? I don't get this story. I'm a firm believer in having faith. Got a story about one such instance I would love to share. There was once a young fox who showed no limits to what she could do. She watched the frogs bound and leap around joyfully and tried to do the same. However, no matter how high she jumped, she could never quite scale the high heights achieved by the frogs. She asked the strongest frog to reveal the secrets of jumping abilities. The frog laughed and simply said we were born with a gift and no other animals could do what we do. Sad and a little confused, the young frog pounded the frog's work for a long time. She had always overcome every obstacle and saw no reason why she couldn't prevail over this challenge, despite not being a frog. Peering over the lake, she reflected over her plight and jumped into the reflection of the large, pale moon. Some time passed and the frogs wondered why they hadn't seen the young fox for a while. Looking to the sky in amusement, before one of the frogs proclaimed, "It looks like she jumped the highest after all. Even the sky was no limit to what she could achieve." It just goes to show that sometimes you need to take a leap of faith. She's in the moon now? Or in the moon in the water? Maybe it looks for them that they're in the moon. We may be known for being solitary creatures, but life alone is not easy. True, not for anyone. In a clearing deep in the woods, populated by a herd of four-legged, four-longed, stood a solitary deer, a little removed from the group. Okay, you see, he was ignored and overlooked because he was mocked by his appearance, whilst the other animals had large and bullish horns, his were smaller and demure. His life was lonely and bereft of love. On the side of the rich green thick lived another deer. She bore the bird of taints and mean remarks because of her remarkable tusk. So unique they were that the other animals cast envious gazes in her direction whenever she walked by. This was difficult for her because she was nothing more than because she wanted nothing more than fit in. Her life was lonely and bereft of love. And they found each other? Well separated by a sprawling landscape of woodland, they were however connected by a riverbed. It is call it luck or destiny, but on the same day both decided to escape the weight of rejection. They made their way inland to the body of land and caught sight of each other from across their banks. They locked eyes and it was instantly captured each other's heart. You see, what others dislike about them, they love about each other. It gave them strength and made them whole. Their lives were no longer lonely and bereft of love. Okay. I have two more. Here the one about the wolf and the rabbits. There once lived a rabbit behind a waterfall, tiny in stature but big of a heart. Many had tried, uh, but all had failed to unsettle him from behind his water veil. No one really knew why until a big, bold wolf sought to try her luck. She marched towards the waterfall, braced and loud with thoughts of victory, but came squirming back, scared and broken with tales of a large and fearsome beast. Her friends heckled and laughed at her misfortune. Unknown to her, the rabbit had mastered a trick Less a trick, but more a realization. Using cunning and trickery, he was able to make himself bigger and louder. He had embraced his inner strength to become the beast other animals feared. Ever noticed how some are never satisfied with what they have? Well, it reminds me of an old foggy I used to know. There once was a there once lived a badger, a more conceit and veiled creature you will never see. He he loved his looks, but loved having what others didn't much more. On one of his little saunterings in the woods, he came across the biggest and juiciest radish he has ever seen. I bet no one has ever had one as big as this before, he thought. Before picking it up and proudly marching towards the river with it, as he walked by the roadside, he was caught in he caught sight of his reflection and another badger with what looked like a bigger and juicier radish in his mouth. Outrageous, he lunged at his reflection, dropping the radish into the watery depths. Soaked wet, and at the cost of his action began to sink in, he began to make his way home with nothing to show for his walk other than a loss of pride and acknowledgement of his greed. Rip. Well, that was all. Okay. I thought they were games, but it's also a nice base for something else this time. But yeah. Mm. Thank you for watching. I will see you next time.